this, do they?
No.
They could take psychedelics and have... Why don't they do magic mushrooms?
I don't know.
Because it was the thing at the time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I went to parties in 1970. I was 16. Was I 16 when they were 16?
Yeah.
Recording.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. What shall we start?
So can you hear it?
Okay. Welcome to the second episode of my podcast, All the Fun Things. Joining me today is my wonderful mother. Say hello.
Hi.
It's an interesting perspective to have compared to the normal demographic of people who read all the young dudes, which is...
She means I'm ancient. That's what she means.
I just mean she's the age that Remus and Sirius and James and Peter would have been if they survived. So she's lived their era at the same time as them. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It was great listening to it because it's nostalgic. Yeah, all the same things were happening at the same time. It's quite odd, really. Very odd. But we didn't have wizards necessarily.
Or did you? And you just didn't
Or did
know.
we? I don't know.
So when did you first start listening to my audiobooks? Because you listened, you didn't read it beforehand. Because a lot of people will have read it and then listened.
Don't know whether that was an advantage or a disadvantage, really. It was good not to have read it, I think. Maybe I wouldn't have got as far as I did because it gets too sad.
You haven't finished it?
Only one chapter.
No, and you haven't read Out of the Blue and...
No, I got too depressed at the end.
No, it doesn't finish on a bad note. If you didn't know the Harry Potter stories, you can imagine that they'd be fine.
But you know what's coming. And besides, I love Grant, so I'm...
Grant left and she left.
Yeah.
You left with Grant.
Actually, that's true, isn't
You were
it?
like,
I
nah.
couldn't bear it when Grant had to leave. I just thought that was too tragic.
Which brings me on to the question I ask everyone. My previous guest's favourite character was Sirius. My favourite character is Sirius. But your favourite character is?
So while I was reading it, my favourite character was Remus. Then it was Grant, then it was Remus, then it was Grant. Then it was Grant for quite a long time. And then Remus, he redeemed himself by being so brave and going off into the woods in the werewolf lair.
Oh, okay.
So then I went back to Remus. So they're neck and neck. But I feel so sorry for Grant because he's such a lovely person and he's so kind to everyone and he had such a bad start and he was so good to him. I just feel so bad for him.
But he gets the ending he deserves. So.
Well, not really.
No, he does. He has a happy life.
Yes, but he has to have the tragic time first and he had to give up the person. That shows how much he loved him, though, because he was prepared to give up everything to make Remus happy because he thought he could never really, really make Remus happy and he needed to be with Sirius. That was tragic. That's like a Shakespeare play. I'm sorry, but,
You did comment something.
What?
I can't find it now, but you commented, it's a tragedy on Shakespearean scale.
Oh, it is, isn't it? It's kind of... And also they're all missed... So in Shakespeare you get a lot of missed opportunities or things that just are the wrong timing. When things go wrong because somebody isn't there at the right time. When Remus didn't come back from the werewolves in time. And then he felt so bad about Sirius for so long. It's tragic.
It is tragic.
Yeah.
But the first book isn't tragic. Well, the way I've divided it, the first 4 years at Hogwarts aren't tragic.
First 80-something chapters.
Yeah, so what did you think when you were reading?
I thought it was Enid Blyton. No, it's wizarding.
I know what Enid Blyton is. Because I have a lot of American...
Oh. It's rather English.
They probably do know it.
It's rather English and very 1950s.
They go and
it's something I grew up with.
Ginger beer and ice cream picnics.
Very naive, very silly, but very happy. and very easy to visualise.
Yeah.
Children having fun. And
where were the parents in all those books? I don't know, but they were just allowed on camping trips in the woods.
They were on the sofa smoking a pipe. It's a childhood of times past that people don't have now. You know, quite carefree. They're all wrapped up in one another's little groups.
Yeah.
And that's really lovely. I mean, that's not today.
No.
That's a real throwback to the 70s and beyond, you know, earlier. I remember being like that and then sitting around in your bedroom listening to Mark Bolan, jumping on the bed.
Were you Remus? Is this what you're saying?
Well, the music's very nostalgic. It's a shame that it couldn't do more music within it.
Copyright.
Is that the problem? That's a shame.
But in the first book, there's an important thing that happens for Remus. He learns to read. Well, he doesn't learn to read. He gets given the gift of reading. Yes,
but the dyslexia bit, right, historically... Now, if we're talking historical accuracy, my dear, dyslexia is the sort of... I know it's always been there, but it was never talked about.
No, but that's why...
In that era.
When it's only Grant, very later on, that says he was trying to get it recognised at the school he was teaching at, but it wasn't a recognised thing. He was campaigning to get it recognised because he had kids that he thought were dyslexic and he wanted to get them tested, but they weren't doing it.
So it seemed almost unbelievable when I was listening to it that Sirius knew and could recognise it.
No, he didn't know he was dyslexic. He just knew he couldn't read. He just saw Remus looking at pages and just not being able... So he just thought, I'm going to help him read. Or sit there and read out the history book.
And it's sad because obviously Remus was a very intelligent boy, but had he not had that gift of reading, he wouldn't have survived Hogwarts, would he?
No.
That's when I first decided I quite liked Sirius, because that was very kind. And without that wouldn't, nothing would have happened. But I keep saying, it is fiction.
No, we're pretending it's real in this instance right now.
Okay. Yeah, you do get... I got completely drawn in by that time.
Yeah.
I was already thinking it was real.
It is real, what you say.
Yeah, it's quite hard, this, isn't it? It's an alternative world, and it's an alternative reality.
We have no proof that it's not real. There's a whole conspiracy that J.K. Rowling is Rita Skeeter, and she wrote about it and sold it to the Muggles illegally. And she's the crossover. I like to believe.
Okay. I can see, lots of good literature provides you with a different reality. And whoever this author is, it's quite marvellous that...
Miss Kingbean, Taylor Swift. Has to be someone English for all the references to be in there.
Yeah. There are some things that you simply wouldn't know.
No. It's very British.
It is. Yeah, some very subtle things that no one else would know. When I come across them, I'll remember. But yeah, but it's a fabulous fiction. It's a fabulous fiction.
So the first book you liked. The second book started to get darker, as one of your comments said. Oh, it's getting darker.
You sort of know that it's going to come to a sticky end, but you can't stop reading it. And the author is so good at putting cliffhangers almost at the end of every chapter. And if you could, I couldn't binge listen because I was listening to them in real time.
And I did and read it all in less than a week. Didn't sleep.
Yeah. And I can imagine doing that because you have to know what happens next. And that's what makes it so great to listen to, in fact, in real time, because I had to wait until the following day.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps you going. There are not very many books with that many chapters in that can lead you into the following. It's brilliantly written to keep you going.
Yeah.
You have endless patience waiting for the next.
It's an amazing piece of work.
Yeah.
Congrats, Miss Kingbean.
Yeah.
89.
Whoever that is.
Historical accuracy you started talking about.
Yeah, so the music was great because they did actually follow the specific years the Mark Bolan thing, I actually looked up and checked that it was at the same time.
When he died as well, yeah.
That was quite disturbing when Mark Bolan died. I can understand why they went into crisis.
Yeah, they were like, no school today. Mark Bolan's dead.
That was tragic. He had this little Mini, Mark Bolan. Used to drive around in this little Mini, and it's one of the first Minis that had the top taken off.
Yeah, convertible.
Yeah, and he had all this hair, and he wore a top hat. But tragically, the Mini crashed, and there's nowhere to go in the Mini.
Great.
Yeah. And, crushing is fairly fundamental. Anyway.
Does this link into your note that says sad bits, darkness?
Actually, it probably does, because Mark Bolan was a hero to lots of people. And he was not like anyone else. And he died very young, tragic death, quite young. And lots of people could relate to that. And it's hard when your hero dies, isn't it? I'm not sure why the author used those particular... Because they could have used lots of different artists.
I think they just imagined the ones that they would have liked at the time. Obviously not ABBA, which everyone complains about, but no one liked ABBA at the time.
No.
So it wasn't cool.
In the UK, it was definitely not cool. Mark Bolan was very cool. Yeah.
Sirius would have liked ABBA in his 40s. He'd have given in and been like, okay, it's good. But when he was 16, he wouldn't have admitted he liked ABBA.
No, but weirdly, ABBA became a kind of gay band to follow.
Yeah.
But at the time...
No, at the time he wanted to be cool.
It was just a bit of pathetic pop.
Well, because they won Eurovision.
Yeah. Nobody wants to win Eurovision in England.
Well, they're laughing now. Manskin won.
Yeah.
Or Måneskin. It's Danish.
Yeah, it's a horrible bit of snobbery, that. But even in this... so who else was there? Was Mark Bolan.
They love David
Bowie.
That's their icon.
Yeah, and there's... Have you seen the album cover for that David Bowie album at the time? David Bowie looks a bit like an android on the front, and he's Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, yeah.
Again, that was really a cool thing to do. And that did draw in the gay community. So that's kind of symbolic, really, that they used him.
Yeah.
It's good. I liked the way they sat and they listened to those records and they flipped the albums and they listened to it again and again, because that's exactly what you did.
Yeah,
because there wasn't
to them over and over. James would have got so annoyed because James and Peter weren't that interested in music and they were playing the same one.
Yeah, but they had to put him talking about Quidditch all the time. So I think one of the things about them all is they all have their own obsessions, don't they? Apart from Peter always seems a bit nothing, doesn't he?
Then there's the easiest people to convince.
Controllable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't really have... he does have a personality, but he doesn't have his own personality. He's a follower, not a leader. All the others were leaders. Lily's a leader.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong,
Mary's a leader.
They all come up to they step up.
Yeah.
Peter would shrink back and run away.
Which he does. He transforms into a rat and scuttles away.
Yeah. There's a lot of symbolism in that, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you upset that Grandad hit a stag?
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Kept saying... So my backstory. My granddad came over for Christmas and tells us that he hit a stag driving.
With his car.
With his car. My first reaction was, no, you got James Potter.
Yeah.
But he didn't get the joke.
No, he didn't understand, did he?
Which was fine, but he said that the stag limped away.
It's very sad.
But he didn't die, he just limped off.
Oh dear. We shouldn't be laughing, should we? We were mortified at the time. Yeah, it's all very symbolic, isn't it? You've got the animal symbolism, you've got all the symbols and in the music and the fashion,
Yeah.
Massive amount of of research.
Tell me about Cornwall, the Cornwall chapters.
I loved those. I think looking back, those are the things that you can visualise the most. It's so... did I say something like it's so quintessentially English?
Yeah, and you said... so evocative of England. I can picture everything. And then you go on to make a public health announcement by saying, I know it was cool to smoke, but I wish Remus would stop. He's killing his health. But Remus would just tell you he's here for a good time, not a long time. He was right.
Yeah, I think that isn't actually very accurate. It made me a bit cross, really. So there was a period when lots of people smoked. You know, young people smoked behind the school bike shed or whatever. But in that era, that wasn't it. Not many teenagers smoked. Maybe Borstal kids did.
Yeah.
People from bad schools.
Yeah, that's where he picked it up.
But Remus moved up in the world. He went to Hogwarts. He shouldn't be smoking. Can't even manage a hill. Anyway, yeah. So Cornwall was lovely because I went on a holiday to Cornwall almost every year when I was their age.
That's cool.
To
that castle.
To Tintagel Castle, yeah. Which is supposed to be a mystical place, which is why I'm sure
They've used it. I'm sure.
Yeah. And also, in that era, not many people went all the way down to Cornwall on a holiday, so it was quite remote. It did feel like you were going to a completely different place, like you would have now if you went abroad.
Yeah.
Not many people, lots of lonely beaches, you know. A wonderful, again, a bit Enid Blyton, really, a bit 50s.
Yeah.
But it was still like that in the 70s. And they had freedom. I loved that. I loved the camping bits and the silly things and them getting drunk. You know, it was a lovely carefree time. And I think that was written in for a reason. That was like the start. Well, also it was the start of them changing.
Yeah.
The group changed after that.
Yeah.
But also it was a cohesive group, those people who went on that holiday, weren't they? And even then, Peter was on the edge. He went separately, didn't he? He didn't go all together.
No.
And then there's the announcement of... the announcement, you know, coming out. And then again, Peter didn't really take it terribly well, did he? You sort of
Peter Ward. James's line.
Yeah.
He told Peter off.
Yeah. And yeah, James is just
the best.
Yeah. Yeah. It's odd because he's a fabulous character and he's very kind and he's the sort of mediator. You know?
Yeah. The group wouldn't be together if they didn't have James.
And you like him as a character. You really, really, really like him, but you don't feel you love the person like I loved Grant. You know, it's...
Yeah, but also it's told from Remus's perspective, so of course you're going to fall in love with Sirius and Grant, not James.
I think it's this English thing about liking the underdog.
Yeah,
because Sirius and James have everything.
Well, Sirius doesn't have everything.
No, he doesn't have decent parents, definitely not. But they're both purebloods. They both have a sense of arrogance and wealth. And Grant has nothing, and he's the underdog. So I'm English, so I fight for the underdog. No, seriously.
Yeah, but you also see him through Remus's eyes.
Yeah, and he always has a sunny disposition, doesn't he?
Through Remus's eyes. Sirius can't stand him, and through Sirius's perspective, you haven't listened to it yet. But he's like, Grant's always got this weird grin on his face.
Well, that just shows you he does have a sunny disposition. Yeah. Someone else who's resentful can't feel it, right?
Yeah.
So he's resentful and jealous. That's Sirius's problem.
Yeah.
And I think Grant had a lot of difficulty to overcome to still be
nice.
An even well-rounded individual who was able to help other people.
Yeah, that's true.
He helped in the darkest of times, didn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't let go, even though they were terrible times. Yeah. I can't imagine living with Remus. All they wanted to do was smoke, lie on the couch, watch the television, do nothing, make a mess. I can just imagine Grant just... that must have gone on for months and months and months when Remus was in a stupor.
Yeah.
And he was just still always there as a sort of his rock.
You called him Golden Retriever.
Golden Retriever, yeah, watching over him. Yeah. If everybody had to be an animal, Grant would be a Golden Retriever.
Yeah, he would.
Mm. Yeah. So you can't not like him, but you can feel passionate about someone who does wonderful things. Whereas Sirius... the blacks are a thing of their own, aren't they?
Yeah, but serious.
There are wonderful descriptions of his physicality and his look and everything.
Yeah.
That's just great writing. And part of his look is part of his character. I'm not sure. I imagined him as preening himself, and that bothered me a little bit.
No, I think
there he is in his leather jacket, preening down his hair and getting on his motorbike, looking cool. And
yeah, but he's just cool.
Yeah, but it's all I'll tell you what didn't seem right. I didn't really understand why somebody like Sirius would spend hours in his garage.
On his
motorbike and looking at his bike and cleaning it and doing things.
He was putting spells on it to make it fly. Because he was very passionate about his motorbike.
Yeah, well, he could work on those back in his flat and give Remus some company. Couldn't he? Yeah. It didn't seem to fit into the storyline of what was going on, him out in the garage. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm so unsympathetic to Sirius, and... I did get sympathetic with him when he had to go to Azkaban.
12 years!
I know.
Are you kidding? Anyone would be ruined from 12 years in Azkaban. Normally, after 12 years, you're completely insane. You're barely alive. He only survived because he was a dog.
Do you know what I thought was one of the... So, Cornwall was very visual for me. The scene of Sirius in the bath.
You can just imagine him looking like a corpse. With his matted hair.
Yeah. And then there was Remus sitting on the loo beside him, trying not to look, seeing how dreadful it all was, and then him
see all the bones.
Yeah, and then him ending up trying to get all the tangles out of his hair and being very
for hours.
Patient. That's it sticks. Those sorts of scenes, like that, very visual scenes, are really powerful, I think, because that. It was a powerful part of the relationship. Even though they didn't have a relationship by then, did they?
No.
But even then, when he's in the bath trying to just comb his hair, all the time I kept thinking, oh gosh, this is Grant's exit. Because the tenderness of the scene just made me think, although there wasn't a relationship going on, this is the end for Grant. So you could kind of see that coming, and that's when I started not wanting to listen sometimes. It's too tragic.
Okay.
That became difficult. That and the werewolf scenes, they were very visual too, weren't they?
When he's in the cave and gets trapped in there and stuff.
I do have a little problem with werewolf visualisation because I've never seen one.
Well... In the books, it's described as larger wolf.
Who? Greyback?
A werewolf.
A werewolf.
Is a wolf, but bigger. But in the films, they made Remus into this... Wait, I'll show you a picture. You know what he looks like in the films, right?
Yeah. So when they're in werewolf mode, they're just like wolves, aren't they?
They should be,
right, but
except they made him look like this in the movie.
Right, because
he doesn't. He should look like another dog, another wolf.
But in my head, right, and obviously I didn't see any of that.
Right.
In my head, I was visualising them as people when he was in the woods, because they're not werewolves all month, are they?
No, they're only werewolves one night, and then they're people who wear furs and go and grunt at each other. They're more animalistic people.
Yeah, but in my head I got all of that a bit confused. So sometimes they were standing up and they'd have a wolf face, and most of the time I'm walking around in the English countryside listening to this. So it was a country walk virtually every day.
In the woods.
In the woods, yeah, going through the woods listening to this. And as you got to that section, it's getting darker nights. And
I don't know how you did that. I'd have been too scared in the woods, thinking a greyback was going to jump out at me at any time.
And where I walk, there are lots of deers.
Prongs!
And when it's going dusk, you kind of see them looking at you. And it just felt... Sometimes I had to stop it. It was too dark in the wood, so I put my light on the telephone.
Yeah.
But as I got to the chapters where he stays...
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit disturbing, really. I just wanted him to go home.
Yeah.
I liked the section where he does turn up.
He goes to the werewolves, and then he leaves and joins them back in Cornwall. Do you remember they have that emergency meeting in Cornwall?
That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Because then there's a second meeting where he has to go into hiding because of what they did.
And they put him in that horrible room.
With the other Marlene's brother, the Quidditch player. And they share a room for a month, don't they?
That's awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was a bit awkward.
Like, what do you like doing?
And he was worried about Remus because he was gay.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying that was awkward.
Remus was like, okay.
Danny, that was very well written because you sensed the awkwardness of the situation.
Yeah.
Especially
but after that, that's when he joins an Order of the Phoenix meeting in the house.
I liked the flat. I liked everything about the flat, really. The fact that Sirius didn't buy some swanky place,
No.
then it's so understandable, really. Except I still can't find where that could possibly have been because I know that area so well.
Well,
the flat that it describes isn't really there.
Maybe it's not possible. I imagine...
No, it's fictional, isn't it?
You know that bit in Soho, it has... Now there's a bubbleology there, that's how I recognise the place, but it probably didn't. It obviously didn't back in the day. No. There's a green... It's like a walkway you go under, and there's a green building that joins the two streets.
Yeah.
I imagine it down one of those kind of streets. Because they've all got, like, shops at the bottom and then flats above. So I imagine it in one of those.
Yes, but the description of it and looking out from the window is nowhere in Soho. But it doesn't matter. It's just, it was very easy to imagine their kitchen, wasn't it? Why do they, if they're wizards...
Yeah.
Just why do they have all that problem about a messy place? I mean...
Because they don't know any cleaning charms. Well, they do. They get into a rhythm, don't they? It's because they become reliant on the house elves at Hogwarts. Institutionalised.
Well, yeah, but it was great they had no TV. There wasn't anything to watch in 1979 or 1985. And anyway, it would have been too muggle for them.
Sirius wouldn't have understood it.
No.
Could have watched concerts on their big screen, though. They would have liked that.
You see, big screens didn't exist. Oh. We're talking 80s televisions with a big bump behind them, not flat screen TVs.
I know, we had one of them.
We have to be in the era.
Well, they could have watched David Bowie on a screen. But unless it was on live, you couldn't stream it in. So actually, no, they couldn't have done that.
No. This is another time. It's his history. I think what was nice was someone would usually Grant go off in the kitchen and make something, and all of that must have been researched. So there's even down to the things that they would have had because they had no money.
Yeah.
Right. So not everybody ate like that.
No.
But it was indicative of two things. Firstly, they couldn't cook. So everything was like old-fashioned convenience food.
Yeah. Like what? What's an example of one of them?
Oh, they seem to have a lot of soup and takeaways. which actually there weren't many of.
In this world, they live above a takeaway shop, so that's how they get it so often, because it's literally
Maybe. Okay.
below their flat.
But they don't seem to eat anything substantial.
No.
I don't know what they really live on, except cigarettes.
Like,
I love how Grant says he's going to cook for him, then he makes him beans on toast. He means he warms a tin up.
well, everyone does what they can do.
Yeah, and it was quite a novelty at the time, actually, having convenience food. So, don't knock it. And they were men, young men, weren't they?
Men.
And their only interest at the time was drinking and smoking. So,
Hello, everyone. Lovely people who stayed to the end to listen. That was part 1 of my mum's review on All the Young Dudes. There's a second part coming because she had a lot to say. So I decided to cut it a bit short. But there'll be more. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be uploading soon.